I am Netmover Sitan. Welcome back to Lobotomy Corporation Wonderlab, the lore breakdown. And I can already tell that this is going to be an interesting one. Most interesting. The next story that I'll be covering is Tangle. And it begins with Tai's start of the day. She was in a pink apartment. Well, pink on the inside. And she was fully dressed and nervous. It was 8 a.m. and around the same time, Joe, Bibi, Daisy and Sasha were in a meeting with the new... Well, they were waiting for the new head of the information department, who was late for the department head meeting. And Bibi was off about this. Joe was annoyed with Bibi, as the new head of information was only seconds late, considering it's being angry at a trivial thing. Daisy was looking bored, and she had a whiskey with ice near her, or at least what looked like it. She asked why they were having a meeting in the morning. She was feeling dozy. How were you the head of training? I'm amazed that you weren't fired long ago. Then the officially appointed head of information, Suho, walked into the meeting room. She had long purple hair and was highly pleased to work with those whom she admired as co-workers. Bibi remembered her. Suho then spoke of a major document that she had to complete, involving the fact that the disciplinary department suffered the majority of casualties of its employees, due to most of them being new recruits. Yeah, I don't get that. Is it intended to chuck them in the deep end, where only those that survive a certain period are Lobotomy Corporation material? Well, if it is the deep end, it's full of sharks that want to eat anything that's foolish enough to go swimming in it. Anyway, she advised that they assess the ability and competence of those sent there as it's necessary. Sasha was annoyed by this, as he asked if she could tell that from their test results. But he decided to humour her. Ella was quiet and surprisingly above average, and can keep careless idiots under control. Above average is not being dead for more than a day. Rose maintained a suave face when handling dangerous and tough tasks in a breeze. She's been through a lot in such a short time. Yeah, you could say that, as it's a miracle that she hasn't lost her mind. Then we have Tai, who seemed to doze off all the time, which led to a snidey remark from Daisy. But she learned quickly. A good trait for surviving there. Sasha saw his team as serviceable. Then he spoke of cats. Suho was aware of her, the unstoppable beast. But she saw Tai as unique, as she was a clerk that was promoted to an agent. Sasha couldn't argue with that, although she was seen to be a faint-hearted crybaby that hasn't done away with her immature feelings. While this was going on, Tai was choosing a hairbrush inside the containment unit of Tangle, the abnormality that she was working on. Ah yes, a twisted take on Rapunzel. a story, specifically a fairy tale, written by those German writers, the Brothers Grimm. Well, a twisted take on it anyway. Where a girl used her ridiculously long hair to help her love get to her. Okay, how would that be not painful for whoever was having their hair pulled like that? Well, Tai brushed Tangle's hair, seeing this TEF-level abnormality as tame as a Zayin, the lowest level threat around, but also the least powerful. Apparently Instinct Works provided good results, along with brushing its hair to provide decent amounts of energy. Oh, so that's an Instinct work. After that, Flower was happy for her. Rose was jealous. Tai sometimes plays with Tangle's hair, braiding it or putting accessories on it, showing pictures as proof of this. It apparently liked this happening, where the hair was done in pretty ways. Seeing this cute face that might look like a ball of hair. Oh, so a knockoff triple. Flower suggested a heart hairpin to hold its hair to show its cutesy face, but Rose advised caution as too much affection for them could end badly. Clearly remembering White Lake and what almost happened with Cookie. Tai gets this, and while hugging her, Rose didn't want her to be in any unnecessary danger, as she wanted to get to her as fast as possible. Well, better her than the one that does what she needs to too eagerly. Yes, I'm thinking of cats here. Flower and Tai were impressed by this. Then Finn crawled up to them from a doorway, wielding an axe and with hair wrapped around parts of him, shouting about how he didn't know what he did wrong for that stupid hairy furball to attack him. Well, you're certainly not a Klingon, that's for certain. Yeah. Ella told him that old-fashioned combs were for aged males, although it was the only comb he had. Ella gave him the hairbrush, which he lost. Flower observed that he had it rough. Rose noted that Ella had it rough as well, and that Finn wasn't suited for management work. Tai saw it better to be friends with Tangle, rather than being attacked and running away, causing Rose to panic and telling Tai that abnormalities were not her friends. Tai was just putting it in easier terms. She had no problems dealing with Tangle, telling Rose not to worry about. Meanwhile, Tangle was speaking 4,899 repeatedly. The next work with Tai was with Tangle. She brought it purple ribbons to tie around the hair and bows. Tangle then spoke 4,952, the time between them, putting down that much hair, seeing it as a sign of much love, telling her to let her hair down. Rather, let Tangle's hair down so that she can escape that hell. Tai understood this to let her breach containment. Tangle insisted on this, telling her to let the hair down. Tai liked doing that, but she couldn't let containment breach happen. The justice of that place needed to be upheld, between abnormalities and them apologizing for this. This made Tangle cry, not liking this, saying 4952 repeatedly as the hair came for Tai. Then, as the hair wrapped around her, it said 4953 and then 4954, shouting at her. Or rather, shouting at Tangle not to do this, as Tangle spoke 4955. Tai then brought out what appeared to be the EGO weapon of My Sweet Home, although she was hesitant to use it. But this harsh attack on her was forcing her hand. Tangle spoke 4993 as it wrapped its hair round her neck. Oh, and before you say anything, no, it's not hentai, so please don't bother pointing that out in the comments. Tai was gasping for air as Tangle spoke 4984, 4985, 4996. And just as the hair was wrapping around the containment unit door, she said 4997, 1. Tai was pushed too far by Tangle and used her weapon to slice the hair. She was done playing nice with Tangle. She cut all the hair connecting the main part of Tangle that was wrapping around her and the containment units. Not wanting to use that EGO sword, but she was kind of forced to be honest with you. It was a bad result. She learned the hard way, due to that experience, that abnormalities are subjects of management, where results are gauged as good or bad. They were embodiments of the human mind, something that she can't be friends with. She sat cross-legged, thankful that she was still alive. Now we have the next story. The Road Home and Scaredy Cat. This starts with Cat being excited about a fresh scent. That it smells like joy. The other agents in disciplinary were a little apprehensive, to be honest, by this, well, if not confused, by this joyful reaction to what she had encountered. So she dragged a television over to show that new abnormalities had arrived from Lobotomy Corporation HQ, asking if they want to watch it in cognition filter mode to make it adorable. Tai didn't know that they arrived. Rose mentioned that HQ has a department that extracted them. Yeah. It's run by a former arbiter of the head, the rulers of that city. But of course, they don't know that. All they know is that teleportation technology is used to send them to that branch. And Finn compared them to veins of ore that can be mined and crafted from rocks. Amused by this, Ella was not so amused. Then the video played, and the department heads observed the teleportation occurring. All thanks to W-Core. Then the abnormalities arrived, and it was Scaredy Cat and the Road Home. the information department went over the managerial tips, the guidelines of the road home, remembering that they acted as a quartet. A quartet, you say? Suho certainly remembered that much. Bibi saw them as a nightmare to deal with when together. Daisy saw even two of them to be a bother to handle. Daisy seeing it as Joe's turn to take those two. Joe didn't see it that way, deciding on a showdown with Sasha. Yes, they settled it by playing rock, paper, scissors. Daisy seeing it as silly and childish. And based on that, Joe lost. And took those two. Well, at least Tai saw it that way. Finn observed that only two of them were sent to that branch, believing that four of them might make a combo if they breached. Yeah, best not to make it harder than it already is. Besides, there are story reasons why they all can't be in that branch. Cats then remembered that another tape was there for them. In that video, Daisy informed them of two familiar, at least to us, abnormalities. The warm-hearted woodsman and the scarecrow searching for wisdom. These twisted takes on characters from The Wizard of Oz, where one acts like an Aztec priest that kills people for their hearts, as if they were singing the Lumberjack song. Thank you, Michael Palin. Yeah, if someone tried something like that today, they might receive an angry mob, be on the receiving end of cancel culture, something like that. And the other seeks out the brains of intelligent people, like a selective zombie. Both were examples of how too much of a particular stat can be deadly for agents. Too much temperance for the woodsman, and too much prudence with the scarecrow. Daisy noted that they were connected to each other for unknown reasons, where death awaits those that don't follow their delicate guidelines. Upon watching this, Cass wondered what would have happened if all four were gathered, and Finn was disturbed by her fascination. Meanwhile, a curvy black-haired and black-skinned agent in control was feeding the scaredy cat, while a long, straight-haired agent was showing the road home, which took the form of a little girl with no arms, a colourful animated film. The abnormality here was apparently pleased with this. Tai noting that they aren't as violent as those shown in the video. Rose was relieved by this. Do you really believe that? They all look harmless, until they reveal that they're not. Rose saw this much, noting that they might be extremely aggressive in reality. Tai saw that the four resonated, wondering what emotions birthed them. Rose didn't know, but she was more concerned with what Cat would do if they didn't transport the documents to her. Yes, they were carrying some boxes. And then, as this was happening, the scaredy cat, just before it went to sleep, briefly transformed its head into a monstrous lion form. While the road home was, speaking of walking together, the long and winding road. They'll get to the end, to the wonderful land, the world of dreams, all while wearing silver slippers, repeatedly saying, "Let's walk together." This was all in Kat's head as she woke up disturbed, hiding under a table with one agent. In a containment unit, wielding an EGO that looks like a window cleaning equipment, telling it to stand back, threatening to attack it. And what was attacking him in question? Well, that was the road home, which was floating with many golden bricks, holding them up using some telekinesis perhaps, and gleefully using that to throw them at her. Wait, golden bricks. Well, that short green-haired agent is completely boned. Joe was angry at Captain Toma for leaving that behaviour unattended. The wavy grey-haired man apologised, telling him that he disciplined that agent to fix their bad habits, which was eating snacks while working, who was sharing some of it with the road home, an attempt at instinct work, which was a bad choice for that one, at least according to Joe. Toma noting that they were not going in the right direction for that abnormality. Joe drew his katana, saying that the road home wasn't the main concern right now, as the road home breached. The agent seen earlier being buried in the yellow bricks. The road home spoke of sleeping in its country farmhouse one day, riding. A scary and endless adventure began. Speaking of a wicked wizard taking its friends, every one away from her, saying that its friends should go together, to skip home together. Wait, wizard? Yeah, this was another twisted take on a familiar story. Specifically, this is part of the Twisted Wizard of Oz set. In this case, it's a twisted take on Dorothy. Where did Toto go? Was he beaten to death by the Munchkins wielding giant lollipops? Might as well be in this version. She said this as it was walking. Yes, I'm getting the terms a bit mixed up, but just roll with it, okay? This abnormality was walking along the yellow brick road that was being made. Then the information department was consisting of people running due to the road home's attack being imminent. An attack that was unpredictable. One of the agents suggested they hide in a corner. Theoretically a wise move, but they weren't quick enough as a house dropped down which killed 3 agents, causing ruby slippers to appear on their feet. This killed half of the information team in the lounge. Toma informed Joe of this. Joe prioritized what the road home was calling, which Toma realized was Scaredy Cat, which turned into a manticore as it breached. Yeah, this was a twisted take on the Cowardly Lion. Although in this case, besides being a gamma-irradiated equivalent of it, when any of the others of the Twisted Wizard of Oz set breaches, this one breaches and transforms into something far more threatening. They were then faced with the monstrous form of this abnormality, and Joe stabbed it with his katana, wounding it. Toma brought his axe to bear, telling Joe that it was too dangerous, suggesting distance. Joe didn't give a. Meanwhile, the road home was walking along the yellow brick road. Joe was taking care of the Scaredy cats, which disappeared mid-battle. Toma was confused, but Joe explained that it was called to the road home's location. Marching to the home spawned in the information team lounge. They teleported around the branch, heading to home. The cats will attack and murder any that it meets. Toma called all departments from floor 4, warning them about this. The abnormalities were found in the control team office storeroom. Kat wasn't going to wait for orders. She was armed and ready. Then Tai and Rose walked into that storeroom, Rose wanting to start with Cabinet Z, and then they were confronted by two very threatening abnormalities. The two that had just breached. A little before this, Tai and Rose were walking to C office, or at least in the direction of that. Tai observing that the control department had light brown corridors. Oh, how fitting. Noting that each corridor had different lighting and paint colours to aid in knowing where you were. Rose agreed with this. Tai complained that dismally was too red. It makes fear and excitement dominant when suppressing agents and abnormalities. She was still scared of Kat, who had an impassive look. Rose observed that Kat seemed like she was consumed by the Lobotomy Corporation completely. But she knows how to survive there. Rose seemed to know that there are more evil ways of living outside. Tai didn't like the sound of this. Then we get to the part where they found the road home and Scaredy cats. Then Kat appeared and told them, the rats, that it was time to leave, that these were not abnormalities that they could handle. Their deaths would waste resources. They understood this and retreated. But the road home wouldn't let them go and made the yellow brick road move in their direction. Then the Scaredy cat appeared and attacked them. Rose then brought out the claws of the White Lake, as Tai brought out the EGO of My Sweet Home. Much to the surprise of Rose, Tai offered to tell her how she got that after they've dealt with this. Wait, don't you mean if you survive this? As they were fighting, Kat was asking the meaning of what this abnormality was doing, if the road home was incapable of any more attacks, yet only sending the Scaredy cat elsewhere. She called Tai and Rose idiots who were fighting it. Well, it wasn't by choice, so she decided to end this incident by suppressing the road home. According to Kat, this abnormality was a heat-level threat. Red damage was useless. She noted that gear extracted from this kind of being, EGO, can stop them by wearing it and smiting it with the weapon itself. Kat was lacking her usually creepy cheerfulness, as black tendrils were wrapping around the golden ladle. The road home was better able to dodge it this time, but still got hit. her EGO melting just by touching her. It was fast, but not fast enough to be knocked down. Cat asking if that was all. Meanwhile, Tai and Rose were taking on the Scaredy cat. They were holding their own as it was dripping in purple blood, but it was not beaten. Rose noted that while the physical attack of her EGO could suppress it, she told Tai to unleash the offensive potential of her weapon. Tai didn't know that her EGO can inflict white damage, which attacked the mind. Tai resonated with her weapon, which made a slightly pink cloud wrap around the Scaredy cat, which distracted it long enough for Tai to deliver a strike to the head. She dodged out of the way of the claw swipe and kept hitting it, telling Rose to unleash her own attack, noting that if they weren't there, it'd have killed her colleague. Or colleagues, depending on how many encountered, viciously murdering people as it followed someone else, but shrinking when there was no one left to follow. Wicked cowards. Saying this as Rose tore its head in two. And then Rose realized that it wasn't what they were meant to handle as the head reformed and she leapt away before it could do anything else. Rose told Tai to go to where Captain Cass was to help her out. Tai was worried about Rose, but Rose implied that she'd keep the Scaredy cat distracted while Tai helped Cass. Tai got to where Cass was fighting the road home, and not a moment too soon, as Cat was not in good shape, with the black tendrils wrapping around her and her EGO suit in tatters. The road home saying that the game of tag was over and they were just playing, friend to friend, but Cat would not back down. The tendrils were trails of damage that occurred when her legs were cut off, inflicting black damage, like her golden ladle, harming both body and mind. Yes. She spoke this as she fought it, not long before Tai would catch up with her. Unfortunately, her EGO suit wasn't equipped to deal with black damage. Cat asked what it was doing invading Cat's dream moments ago. Singing and dancing. What was it doing in the mind of one that didn't seem to know what she was thinking sometimes? The road home saw her as its friend, dancing the same dance which Cat denied, asking why it was sneaking into her dream. The road home telling her that she was mistaken. She was walking into its dream instead. The road's song, the road's dance, all gathering, all dancing around, all going together. The road home was relentless as Cat struggled to defend against this. Thankfully, Tai arrived. And now we're back up to date. And Cat was not appreciative of this, believing that she wouldn't be of any help. Well, I think you can you can use all the help you can get. Yes, and Tai believed otherwise, as she made the pink cloud appear around the road home, which confused it. And Tai made a few swings at it, and the confused abnormality jumped away. Then she was right in front of this abnormality, which surprised it long enough for Cat to slice its head in two. With no damage left in its head to leak, the abnormality was suppressed, and Cat was impressed by the little rat's actions during the suppression. Not something she would admit lightly.
Meanwhile, Rose was fighting the Scaredy cat, who was not giving her an easy time. And just as it was about to attack her, it turned back into a cat that looked like it was itself in terror, which Rose assumed that Tai was successful with what she was doing, as she picked up Scaredy Cat. Tai caught up with her, seeing that Rose was badly hurt. Rose assured her that the EGO was fine. The scratches on her were nothing that the safety team couldn't fix in the infirmary, despite her suit being coated in blood. Soaked even. But Rose was more concerned with Cat's EGO being severely damaged. Cat saw it as a feeble EGO from a feeble abnormality. It was mostly for comfort, not liking the road home talking to Cat. Seeing her as dancing the same dance as it. Yes, and Cat was not happy about this. She wondered what EGO would be made from that abnormality. And she said this with a crazed look in her eyes. Oh, a return to form after that uncharacteristically disturbed moment. Rose was excited about that, and Tai sucked up to her by saying that pink never suited her. Then the control team came to bring reinforcements, but realized that their presence wasn't needed as both were suppressed. Toma had to report this to Sasha. Then he was panicking due to the storeroom and its supplies being trashed due to the battle. Joe was unconcerned by this, as it happens a lot. He'll put the cleanup fee on Sasha. Tai apologized for this, and Rose decided that they should leave, as Joe told his team to put the abnormalities back in the containment crates.
The road home was put back in its containment unit, and she said her lines when it was sleeping in its country farmhouse one day. Let's go together. Let's go together, friend. Friend, you who set off with everyone. Friend, you who dances. The friend who leaves for the Wonderland. Cat then appeared in a different EGO. A black and white dress. Okay, I was joking when I called her Korean Wednesday Addams. I didn't think she'd go the whole way. Anyway, Tai and Rose greeted her, Rose telling her that this EGO suited her. Cat seemed distracted, and Tai noted that she didn't use any other EGO weapons. Rose believed that the golden ladle was a personal preference, telling an agent that it was time to wake up. In fact, Rose felt strange when she first wore her White Lake EGO suit, but now she feels a surge of confidence and power. Tai was unnerved by how weak hers was, based on the database entry, but it felt as if something was shining in her mind. She asked what was so special about abnormalities that even EGO extracted from them resonates with their minds. The road home and Scaredy Cat were obsessed with their own space and where to head to it. Sickening emotions of the Scaredy Cat compelling it to follow the road home and kill all those in the way. Seeing those two abnormalities as pitiable, that they do the same things repeatedly, determined by the subconscious and emotions. Let's hope that there's no abnormality similar to the Mask of Loki, or more specifically, the source material of that. Otherwise, it'd be potentially city-destroying. There are too many with a messed up head as it is, without that added to the mix. Rose doesn't care what they are. Humans are preferable to her, and Tai was happy to hear this. And Tai denied that she was in love with abnormalities. Rose found that amusing that she liked abnormalities. While Tai continued to deny this, as they carried the unconscious agent somewhere. Then Kat met with her next abnormality, telling it that it was time to stuff out its belly again, the disgusting worm. She was of course talking about the hookah caterpillar. Curiouser and curiouser, says Netmover Zitan. A cliffhanger. Let's see how Kat deals with this in the next one. Until next time. Hail the rabbit!